go in chronological order here. Let's start first with the Friday night Drake Relays men's 5,000. And we're going to get in the show to the biggest winners from the USATF Grand Prix meet and the biggest question marks as well coming up in a little bit. But I want to touch on this men's NCAA 5,000 right now because we are in the midst of a historic season. So it started off on Friday night with Nico Young running the American junior record at Drake, 13:24, that big PB that people expected once he got the opportunity to run fast. So first of all, what did you think of Nico's run on Friday?
It's impressive. He's showing that he could be our next, great young talent to come in. Like, since we've had like a Grant Fisher, I feel like he's kind of flirting with that Grant Fisher, maybe even better than what Grant was. Because if you look back what Grant Fisher was freshman year, I mean, coming out of high school as a sub 4 miler, he multi-time cross country champion. He only got like top 20, I think, at cross. And then, he didn't win individually till sophomore year, but he was kind of a really slow progression. Whereas Nico Young, top 5 at cross, now breaks the American junior record in the 5. He is a little bit faster. I remember Grant making the Olympic trials as a junior. I mean, like a junior age-wise. And it was like a big deal. Now Nico Young's kind of doing the same thing, qualifies for the Olympic trials. I think we're going to be able to see, like, where did Grant finish in 2016 at the trials and where does Nico finish? We kind of can see who's leading that horse race for young talent early on.
Yeah, and you can see just where there's a tweet we're going to put up here, just where he stacks up with regards to NAU, because it wasn't just him in this race who ran fast for the Lumberjacks. It was Adbi Nur. It was Blaise Ferro as well. But on Nico, I thought 13:30 was possible. I was paying attention to track and field when German Fernandez was running the American junior record. So those guys had obviously vastly different careers, different high school times at different eras. But one thing that Nico didn't have that was very clear that German Fernandez did have, Nico Young did not have his senior track season. So we had really no idea what Nico Young was capable of this spring. Now, he ran in some races in the winter, but everything got turned upside down once the pandemic hit. So he never really got an opportunity. German Fernandez, of course, had that nuts California state meet where he runs 4 flat in a mile by himself, comes back, runs the insane 3,200. I should say 1,600 and 3,200 for the purists out there who are following California high school track. But Nico, yeah, he had plenty of amazing moments in his high school career, but his high school career was 3.5 seasons, essentially. He did not get the full 4. This, I think we're seeing his full capability. What impressed me on this, Gordon? I mean, Morgan McDonald won this race. Obviously, Morgan McDonald, NCAA champion in his own right, has run in the 13 teens himself. Nico's kick, I mean, the speed with which Nico closed was mighty impressive. This was not just he's running the same splits all the way through. He's grinding out. We can put up the splits here and just see how quickly he closed over that last quarter. I mean, obviously, McDonald is more experienced, bit stronger, a lot more miles and championship races in his head, but in his legs. But it impressed me. Nico was able to close quickly.
Yeah, and the weird thing about Nico, when he does it, he doesn't look like he's strong at the end. He always has that facial features, body language that he's falling apart. But then it's kind of like
he's always struggling. Yeah,
always look like he's struggling. It's kind of look like, is he okay? Is he gonna be able to make it all 12.5 laps? And then you look up at the clock. And he's like, he just ran 13:24. No big deal. Yeah, phenomenal race for him. The athlete. I mean, we can get into this later, but the depth in the 5K is just getting crazy. Because you look at Nico, 13:24. There was another athlete who beat him, the Kieran Lum. He's going to Washington next year. He's a Canadian, so big shout out to him. So he's joining the NCAA as another sub 13:30 guy. Then NAU had their second and third guys go, 13:26 and 13:31 or something like that, or 25. I'm not sure exact time. But like Blaise Ferro running 13:30s, Adbi Nur, he's a freshman running 13:20s. And then he throw in Luis Grijalva. They're top 4. They're 4th best 5K runners at 13:31 guy. That's insane.
Mhm.
because Luis Grijalva ran 13:17 back in December. So it's insane.
And then we move forward to Saturday, if I'm remembering this. Oh no, wait, was this the same? Was this the same night? Just later on that same night?
Yeah,
It was, wasn't
later
it?
on that evening.
Okay,
Yeah.
West Coast time. It was kind of late for me. Might as well have been Saturday. We get the Oregon Iowa State dual meet here, basically with Cole Hocker, Cooper Teare, Edwin Kurgat, and of course Wesley Kiptoo. We talked about 13-18 being that over under line, which was kind of interesting. Of like, hey, are they going to crack into that all time list? Cole Hocker ends up going 13-19, beats Cooper Teare. You could see the exact times there as well too. I want to get into what Hocker's options look like over the next couple weeks, but first, just generally, this did not surprise you at all, right? A 13-19, a 13-20, a 13-20, a 13-21. This goes exactly to what you've been talking about all year. When you get all these guys together, you're going to see some historically deep races.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I think it definitely shows that Kiptoo has a weakness, and it's his kick, getting fourth in this race. Excuse me. It shows the versatility of Hocker, where people didn't look at him as a 5K guy because, he ran 13:30 against Centro. He wasn't in the Cooper Teare, Edwin Kurgat range. But now that he beats those guys, you kind of got to look at Hocker as like, hey, whatever event he chooses, he'll be the favorite in. Maybe he chooses the 5 over the 15. I'm not sure if the 15 5K double is possible. You'd have to look at the schedule. Is it?
Are you talking about NCAAs or?
Yeah,
I mean, they're all tough, right? Because it's one day.
that's
There is
true.
no. I mean, what's possible really is in the eye of the beholder. The 5 and the 10 is possible, completely separate days. Everything else is just is a mess. But we are running out of weeks though, and you can see we'll put up the current 5,000 list. This is insane. I think this looks like a Gordon Mack special. When you see it in that Excel format, folks, that's a Gordon Mack special there. You just see how deep it is. Now you mentioned Grijalva, he hasn't run yet. And I think
No.
there is one last or maybe two last big 5Ks to go here. So we haven't seen the end of just the fast times before we get to the championship part of the season. But for someone, if we want to talk about Hocker and whether or not he decides to focus on the 5K for the trials, a lot of that I think is predicated on whether or not he has the Olympic standard. Agree?
Yeah, well, he doesn't have the Olympic standard in the 15 either, right?
Right. But what is he going to want to run between now and then to get the Olympic standard? Because I don't know if they have him on a pitch count out there in Eugene, but he's been running a lot of hard efforts for several months in a row now. Perhaps they don't want to go to the well again in another 5K, and maybe the focus will now shift back to the 15. It's a good problem to have, and I'm curious what you think they'll do, because there's obviously West Coast Relays coming up. There's another fast meet at Oregon, Twilight meet. There's another California meet that's going to be quick down in the Los Angeles area, I believe. So there's a couple opportunities to run quick, but then you're going right into conference and then the championship part of the season, and then the decision needs to be made at that point.
For someone like Hocker, though, he only has two meets left to really. Well, he has this upcoming weekend. I think they're running like at Oregon State High Performance meet or the Desert Heat meet in Arizona. Mm-hmm. Then they have the Oregon Twilight, but then it's Pac-12s, prelims, NCAAs, and there's no time to chase. I think between NCAAs and trials, right? Because they're right up against each other,
back to back.
So really, he is going to have to be in a fast 1500 this weekend or next weekend if he wants to get it, or he could try to pull hey, let's time trial the 1500 at Pac-12s. I'm sure they're talented enough to use one of the Oregon guys. Is like, hey, I mean, Lowry Lerlang ran a 3:36 at Pac-12s against Cheserek, I remember a few years ago. So it's possible to do it at a championship meet. Not common, but it's possible. But then it's also like the idea is like, do you need a chase? I mean, it's easier to chase a 15 because you can just be like, all right, let's go for one. And then maybe that Oregon Twilight. But if they don't, like, here's the thing. These guys, like the Hockers and the Nico Youngs, the people who super young in their career, sometimes it's okay to just make your first trials and not try to run yourself down beforehand just to hit an Olympic standard, because like, hey, you could, I think it's okay to go, if you're at 19, 18, 20-year-old, I think it's okay to go into the distance events. I think it's okay to go into your first Olympic trials without the standard, because it's like, hey, just get there, learn how to run rounds, see what it's like. And if you did get third, the
Okay,
odds
but
of
hold on.
you, yeah,
Hold on. You're putting Nico and Hocker together with the purpose of discussing Olympic trials. I don't think they're the same thing. I think Hocker obviously has a much better chance to make the
sure.
Olympic team. So I think the urgency is more real for Hocker than it would be for Young. And the fact that he can do a shorter event just adds credence to, okay, let's take some shots, right? He's run 350 indoors.
Okay.
He can run 335 outdoors, whether or not it's going to be at the Oregon Twilight, whether or not it's going to be, like you said, at OSU or some other, like that is well within his range. For Young, you're asking him to what? Drop another 11 seconds off of his PB that he just set. That's a big ask going to the championship season. I agree with you on the Young sentiment. I think Hocker, though, has the opportunity to make the Olympic team, and I don't think you can pass that up. I want to ask you this, though.
I'm
Go ahead.
trying to figure out if Hocker would be able to get in on his world ranking, because sometimes you don't necessarily, I mean,
Right.
he probably doesn't have a world ranking yet because he hasn't run enough 1500s, but he will once he goes through the whole, like, let me look at, so right now, someone like Sam Prakel, who doesn't have the standard, he could get in on his ranking. And this is what his ranking is. His ranking has a 336, 337, 337, 339, and 337. Hocker, he has a 350 mile. He has a 338. So he just needs to run a couple more like 338s, 337s. And I think he'll have a world ranking that is high enough to qualify. Not to, because you also have the race that you run at USA's. That counts towards it too. So like a third place finish at USA's is going to boost your world ranking as well. So it's a weird thing where there's going to be this scenarios where there are going to be people without the Olympic standard who then getting third at the trials actually boosts their ranking up enough where all of a sudden they have a virtual standard. And maybe Hocker is going to count on that. I don't know.
Great point. You see some world ranking stuff there. I want to can we put up the graphic of the all-time men's 5,000 list? I want to ask you how many guys by the end of the year you think will top this. So right now we have, Cole Hocker ran that 13:19. So that's number 12 all time. How many more marks do you think we'll see that are faster than that this season?
One.
Just one. Okay.
Luis Grijalva, right? I don't know. But I can also see Luis this weekend when he runs. He's like runs a 13:30 and not a 13:10, right? Because he's going to be like, all right, just get into the meet. I do think there are multiple people who are. I think all four of the guys who are in that race, Hocker, Teare, Kurgat, and Kiptoo, they could probably all run faster if they wanted to. But the question is, will there ever be in a race that asks for that, right? And I don't think the 5K final NCAA is going to ask for a 13 teens race, unless Kiptoo will go out, I just don't think. I don't know.
Well, you're right. It may not ask for that, but Kiptoo may provide it because he doesn't ask permission when he runs these races. He just goes for it. We saw what he did indoors. If Hocker's in that race and if Teare's in that race, and we expect Teare to be in at NCAA's, Hocker maybe just a 15, but Kiptoo knows his best chance to win is going hard,
make it hard
from the gun. I mean, he tried to run the kick out of Connor Mance in a cross country race. You don't think he's going to try to run the kick out of Cooper Teare on the track? A lot of it depends probably what happens on the 10,000 on the first day of men's competition to see how much they got left in their legs. But part of me thinks in the back of my head we might have a insanely fast championship race instead of a tactical one.
Yeah, especially because the talent's going to be there. If you go back, I want to talk about this just one last moment, the 5K. If we go back to that graphic of the top 12 times this year, it was the classic Gore. There it is. bring
There
that
you
one up.
go.
So obviously those bottom 2 marks are indoor marks because they haven't run. But the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 marks on that list all are in the West region. They're all in the West. And then when you throw in Luis Grijalva, who will be a top tier, the top 12 marks in the 5K will all be in the same region, which is the West, which is insane. Does seeing something like that where the best 12 runners are all from one side of the country, does that make you want to rethink the way you do East-West prelims? Because you could have an event where you are 13th in the nation, but you're not even good enough to make it to nationals.
Yeah. Well, it's especially tight this year, right? Because, well, 48 to 32 doesn't impact ultimately the 12 from each region that goes, but it just creates a bigger crunch. I just don't know what would the solution be. Just take the fastest group and then split them randomly into 2 regions. I mean, that would seem to be kind of difficult too, with different, like you're gonna split schools up depending on
Yeah, you can't do
where they go. Yeah. Those are the breaks, man, and it's been this way for a while now. I'm sure there's events where the East is stronger than the West, and it balances out. But yeah, you're saying so basically you could run 13:30 this year and not make it. Like that's a real possibility from the West.
Yeah, it's insane. And also think about the way you qualify in the 5K, because the 5K isn't a 1 heat qualifier. It's 2 heats and it's top 5 automatic. What if the way the draw ends up that Teare, Kurgat, Kiptoo, like all the best guys are in 1 heat, right?
Yeah.
And it's even harder to like be top 5 to get an auto berth. And maybe there's a situation where an amazing athlete like a Kiptoo doesn't make it. Like imagine if it's tactical and Kiptoo is in the same heat with Hocker, Teare, Grijalva, Luis, a bunch of a Connor Mance, right?
Yeah,
a bunch of gamers, and then he just gets 6 because it's tactical, and then all of a sudden he's not in the meet. So I think there's going to be 1 or 2 really good 5K runners out of the West who are watching. I think there'll be 1 or 2 I think there's going to be someone from the West who probably could have been top 3 at nationals who won't make it, because maybe top 5 at nationals who won't make it. So
yeah.
Anyway,
here's the championship results. We'll put them up right now from the 5,000, 10,000 recent history. Who's it going to be? You have a new pick? Who's going to be the 2021 champion, Gordon?
Luis Grijalva.
Sticking with it, huh?
Yeah.
I got to say,
no reason not to.
My Kiptoo pick, most people would jump ship at this point. I'm not. I'm sticking around. I'm staying there. I like the consistency. Is the closing speed there? No, it's not where I want it to be, but we still got another month and a half.
My hot take is we're all on the Cole Hocker train, right? In the 15 and the 5. But I honestly think there's a 1,500 meter runner out there who can beat Hocker and a 5K runner out there who can beat Hocker. And one of them runs in South Bend, Indiana. The other one runs in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I think this shows a depth that someone so great as Hocker, there's also another guy out there on both events who could challenge for the win, in Yared Naguse in the 15 and Luis Grijalva in the 5. So
yeah, I don't think it's a shoe-in by any means, but you just look at the way he's winning these races. He just racks up win after win, and he has that kick that is just so hard to figure out if you're an opponent. And obviously when you run 13:19 and you have 350 mile speed and you can close, as we've seen how he closes indoors in particular in that 3K, heck, even in that mile, it's just like he's got all the tools. Figuring out how to beat him is going to be really hard. Not impossible. You're right. I mean, we forget even about Sam Tanner, right? You forget about Sam Tanner, who could win the 15 as well too. He was a stud indoors. Yeah, he's going to the Olympics. Exactly.
But the thing about Grijalva is I think everyone kind of just looks at Grijalva at his cross country performances, and they forget that he literally beat Cooper Teare by 2 seconds in a 5K in a fast time. He outkicked the guy who almost beat Cole Hocker. So I think Grijalva.
Well, because
People are sleeping on him because they just think of his cross country performances.
Well, and the track performances, he doesn't have a signature track championship performance. He's done a lot of things in time trial settings, but yeah, like you look at his T-First page there. I mean, go Command F and hit NCAA championships. And he's been solid a lot, but he doesn't have that one performance. So I totally understand why people would put other people ahead of him. What's that?
Can we scroll on that Louis Grijalva graphic?
Yeah. Let's scroll down on the. Let's go into this is into the mind of Gordon here. This is what Gordon spends hours and hours of his time doing. Keep going down here. Keep going down. Let's go to his. I mean, we don't have. Again, there has that BU race, right? 7:43. The 5,000 was impressive, but if we keep going down, you go to what's his highest track performance? I think it's indoors. Right? I don't think he's finished top 10 in the nation.
He was dead last in that 5K in 2019 outdoors. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a long time ago now. But it's a long time ago now. So is it that relevant? No. Yeah, here's the indoor one. Scroll over. I can't see what the place is there, but there we go. Yeah, 14. So again, doesn't mean he can't do it. It's been a long time. 2 years ago, Cole Hocker would not have been in the conversation for NCAA champion. So a lot of things can change, but it's tough to say like for sure he's going to be ahead of Mance, for sure he's going to be ahead of Kurgat, guys who have won NCAA titles.